Yes.
All right, anyway, I'm going to be talking about the Earth Team Green program that we created years ago. My first artist was Rocky Johnson, and we actually started out as Earth Shield Green. And believe it or not, if you don't think fifth graders can help, uh, my son Ryan was with me when I made a presentation, the very first presentation of Earth Team Green to uh, the a group here, and the Environmental Education Council of Ohio, and we were down at Deer Creek, and I brought Ryan with me. And at that point in time, we had completed our first issue. It was called Earth Shield Green, and Rocky Johnson was my artist. I've had about 5 or 6 artists over the years, ranging from Rocky, who is a very talented artist, to I have an artist that is in Manila, the Philippines. He did my Paragon. I have another artist that this guy was awesome. He is, if you ever read any of the Spider-Man comic books, he was one of the artists. He said Disney operated, or actually Marvel Comics operated on an assembly line. Everyone was charged with doing something for the comic book. He created the aquifer, protectors of the aquifer, and I made a pitch to the city of Dayton, Ohio, about working with them on their water resources and the Little Miami underground water aquifer. Anyway, John and I, believe it or not, he was in K9 in Vietnam. So I hired a vet. One vet hired another vet, helping each other. And my comic book artist, Tony Warney, who actually has done some of my collectors' comic books, including a special edition. I've worked with the Reynoldsburg Police Department, and I did this out of my own pocket. $3,000 I paid to my artists. I got exactly no money because everything was donated back to Reynoldsburg Police Department. And this is one thing about a comic book. You're able to reach out and link up and bridge communication gaps between whoever you're trying to reach in your community. And if you don't believe comic books are powerful, ask the people that are drawing millions of dollars as actors for the Iron Man, for the Spider-Man, for the Black Panther, which is going to be released again. Wonder Woman. I love that particular movie and the sequel. Anyway, all these things tie into comic books. The comic books started way back in the 1800s. And believe it or not, DC Comics actually was in Cleveland, Ohio. That's where they started. The 2 gentlemen started DC Comics. Anyway, I'm going to move on because you can discover sustainability with Eco Thriller comic books. And here's what I'm talking about. Everyone has been exposed to comic books in one way or another. And basically, if you never read a comic book, you may have seen either going to the movie theaters in person or on HBO or streaming, Netflix. Any and everyone is in that business now. And their bread and butter comes from comic books, who they have basically taken the script, expanded the script, turned it into something that relates to today's environmental issues and working with today's youth. Here's 6 ways reading comic books makes you smarter and sometimes even better looking, believe it or not. Comic book stories benefit your brain. There is something in your inner workings in your mind, your brain, and the more you read comic books, it doesn't matter what genre you're into, but something happens. It's the same thing that happens when you actually are using the crossword puzzles and you're reading a complicated story. Any and everything that you're doing to basically exercise your brain. Comic books they do that because they come in all types of genres. There's mysteries, there's science fiction, true life stories, drama, you name it, comic books have it. And then you also will learn to love reading, not only the comic books, but it extends your reading capacity to other things and what you want to do. Now, I know this to be a fact because when I was working with Mansfield City Schools, I worked with special needs children. I would call them special opportunity children because when we came in there with our comic books and our programs, there were children in there. Now, these were sixth graders, 5th graders, and 6th graders. There were some kids that refused to open up a book. They refused to even pay attention. And these kids for 5th graders, they were big. This one, I can't remember this kid's name, but at the end of our our time there, which was about 6 weeks, not only was he reading, but he actually created his own comic book, and others opened up. There was one young lady there that had been sexually abused. She had been withdrawn for I don't know how long, and her team, because she got involved in the comic books and so forth, her team actually won first place with our commercials. You'll begin to think differently. Comic books are cool. Now think about this. How cool is Wonder Woman? How cool was Black Panther? How cool was Men in Black? All of those issues, actually, you look at them, all those individuals that were stars were super cool. Okay, there are more than just superhero stories. As I just mentioned, my comic books, Earth Team Green, we blend science fiction, facts, you name it, we have it all in there, all kind of flavors, all kind of eye-catching, eye-popping graphics for our comic books. The language used is quite advanced. It's sometimes some of those comic books are above 5th grade reading level, which most newspapers are printed, so they can capture that audience, because some people just don't want to take the time to figure out how to spell T-A-E-D, or even better yet, the Ohio State Buckeyes. Okay, move on. Here, this guy read some comic books. You might recognize him. But anyway, that's not what really happened, but I'm just trying to give an example. But you do change. You actually change your role. You begin doing things you've never done before, because you're looking at what these eco heroes are doing. And my comic books are very diverse as far as the characters. We have a representative, an American Asian, Native. We have 2 Native Americans. Actually, one of them is my relative, a Lakota Sioux, Elgin Standing Cloud. He was adopted, and he's in our family now. He lives now in Florida with his mother. But anyway, this happens. You begin to change as you read comic books. Our Earth Team comic books are based on, as I was getting ready to say, real environmental and social issues facing our planet and our youth. And I did this because, man, every day you see things happening, not only here in Columbus, but all over the world, about what's happening with our environment. And the latest comic book, which is Sky Princess, the Crusader for Climate Change and Zero Waste Wonder. And believe it or not, she is real. Her name is Jada Pellman. Her stage name is the Navia Sky. She does a lot of things. She's 14 years old. We started working with her a couple of years ago. This girl is so talented, it's just unbelievable. Her mother just said on Facebook, she went to homecoming, and in 2 years, this young lady has grown up. But she can sing, she can act, she can dance, she's been in commercials, all kinds of things. So she is going to be our new Wonder Woman, our new eco hero. So Earth Team Green does all those things. We blend action, adventure, science fiction, science, and technology. One of our characters does just that. So you'll see them in just a minute. We have enticing flavors for everyone. Earth Team Green, equal comic books, reach and teach the next generation how to protect, respect the environment and themselves. And here's the most important thing. It helps students understand all about sustainability. And this is just something for those of you that are new to the game. This is a quick, and this is not me, this is the EPA. This is their definition of sustainability. You should read this and know what it stands for and what it does, because you're in and on planet Earth, and we all need to understand what sustainability is, truly what it's all about. And now here's something here, no such place as away. Everyone wants to throw things away. I'm gonna have this is a little quick, not a movie, but not a documentary, but I'm going to go ahead and show it. No such place as a way. And there's some people on here will recognize this. Well, things aren't going my way today. Okay, it's supposed to play. I don't know. I don't know. I had this all queued up this morning, and now it's anyway. What you're seeing here, this is an entryway to Waste Management's landfill. Uh, this was my Aunt Sarah and Uncle Albert's farm. Uh, Uncle Albert was killed in 1959 by a drunk driver, and Aunt Sarah raising her children. And another child that they took in, Glenn Heeman, uh, Bill Johnson, David Johnson, Betty Johnson, and Steve Johnson. It was a great farm. They had a big, huge barn. They raised chickens, pigs, mulberries, strawberries, all that was there. It was a pitiful shame to see what happened to that property. And this is also, you see this all over the country. NIMBA, not in my backyard. No one wants a landfill in their backyard. Seraph Road back then, it was pretty rural. I mean, there wasn't too many people that lived on Seraph Road. This is a house right here, and there's other houses up the road there. But this is something that happens all over. So there is a place that people throw things away, and it goes right to the landfill. This is all the topics that we cover in our eco thriller comic books adventures. We talk about landfills, recycling, reuse, litter, social issues, renewable energy sources, non-renewable energy sources. And we do it in such a way that it gets the attention of those young children, young students. And I'll tell you, one of the most scariest jobs I've ever had was standing in front for the first time. I've been in the 5th grade. I tried to go back twice, but they wouldn't let me. They passed me on to the 6th. But if you go out to those schools like Louise and Alicia does, and you get in front of those kids, you not only have to be able to give them something as far as information, you have to become an entertainer. You have to do things, because these kids today, and even more so, well, when I was there back in the day, even more so today, they multitask. They're able to do things that will blow your mind as far as texting, reading, talking, writing, all at once. And so in order to grab their attention, you got to do something to up one whatever they're doing. And I'll tell you, it was a challenge, because these kids at 5th graders and even 2nd graders just blew my mind as far as their knowledge and their wherewithal, the ability to do things that they're doing in elementary school that I couldn't even do in high school. So these are some of the things that we talk about, where we do it in such a manner that it gets their attention. And with our program, now this is one thing I learned way back, is that, and it's happening even today, it's an art integrated approach to education. So the Earth Team Green fit right in. It fit right into this whole curriculum that was handed down to Mansfield City Schools. And then I was able to get a connection in Washington, D.C., the John F. Kennedy Center for Performing Arts, and I was able to get permission to use one of their activities. It was called Let's Get Dramatic, Reuse, Reduce, Recycle. And Louise was one of the recipients of that particular activity, which is basically you work with the kids over a period of weeks, hour at a time. It's a regular class session that we would be in the schools, and we would talk to them about all these topics. We would give them things, show videos, and at the end of the day, at the end of the 6 weeks, they would have produced a commercial, and then they would present it at what we call a Get Green Day. Mansfield was one of the best, along with Buckeye North, but in Mansfield, we had everyone there, including the mayor. We had the residents. We had, because I have a connection with Ohio State Parks, we had Go Green Camping there. Matt Monta set up a tent. We had the grid, which was a portable solar panel that powered a big screen TV, and then we had a windmill, a wind turbine. And the cool thing was, this big screen TV was set up so the cameras were facing the students who were going around to these different locations displays, and they were learning about the environment, solar energy, and so on and so forth. It was a great thing because those kids never forgot. Now those kids now have kids. This was back in way back in 2010. So well, maybe not 2010. Yeah. So anyway, my point is this: you have to keep on the one when you're dealing with young adults, and you're dealing with some of these older children too, the ones that are 30, 40, 50 years old, 60, 70, because sometimes they skipped over this meaningful topic as far as saving the environment. And it's coming to the forefront now with climate change. And then again, this is part of the activity, the landfill, again, on 1136 Surf Road. And I showed this to my cousin, Pat Wright, and her son, Michael, and Mark. And when she saw this, she said, "That's Gene." Anyway, Gene Wright, I remember this from memory. I remember Gene Wright using a backhoe to dig a trench to bury trash in. And this truck is also something from the past too. My dad forced me, child labor. I was 10. I worked 12 hours a day on, he had this thing called Owens and Sons Hauling. What it was, he was Owens, he sat in the front seat. I was the one that went out and picked up all the trash cans, emptied them into this pickup truck that had these sideboards that were almost 10 feet tall. I would load that and unload that thing 3 or 4 times a day. Now, I hated it, but it paid off in the long run, because what happened, my upper body strength, I became almost like a Samson, because I got very strong. I did. And as a matter of fact, I made first team on the varsity football team as a freshman. And now I don't know how, you somehow have to calculate this. We didn't do it a 40 back then, we did a 50. I ran a 50-yard dash in 5.2 seconds. Now you figure that out. I was the fastest kid. I take that back. I was the second fastest kid at the school at the time. The one that used to just smoke me was my cousin, Steve Johnson. He was awesome. Anyway, when we talk about landfills, we're able to show them videos. We discuss the waste management hierarchy. We discuss what's in the landfill. We actually made mini landfills right there in the classroom, and a composting bottle. And I would bring in worms, and the kids loved them, man. We get their hands all yishy, and they put the worms in their composting jar or bottle, and wonderful things would happen with the leaves and the grass and all this other food, some of the paper and bread and so forth. Anyway, this is the landscape of 1136 Surf Road. If you recognize this, for those that you don't, this is methane that's being, that percolates from the trash that is actually bubbling underneath this cap. All landfills are required at the end of the day, if you have a new cell you're working on. And if you're in Franklin County, you can go down to the Franklin County Solid Waste District, the Solid Waste District of Central Ohio, and you can see and take tours of the landfill. You can actually have lunch at the landfill if you will, if you want, if you can. Anyway, this is the integrated waste management hierarchy. And I'm not going to read all this because this is going to be made available to everyone. But this is what we have to contend with. And we need to make sure that we do our best, not only to keep the waste from going to the landfill, but we need to reduce our waste. And you're going to hear from Gary Liss about zero waste later on. He's in California right now, in Sacramento. So he's going to be talking more about zero waste and what each of us can do to reduce our consumption and to reduce the waste that we generate. Well, here's a good, now this is probably outdated by now, but look how much we waste. This is waste, 30.63 million tons of food, 26.82 million tons of plastic, 18 million tons of paper and paperboard, and on down the line. So this is what we do. We are the most wasteful country in the world. And that's a fact, because first of all, we are consumers. We consume more than any country in the world. We waste more than any country in the world. The facts are in, we lose and we win by the amount of waste that we produce. And we can reduce all this. And I'll tell you, it's going to happen because they're not wanting to put landfills in areas where it's populated. And it's just something that no one wants, the NIMBY syndrome, not in my backyard. Now, here's something that for anyone that is interested in this little thing here called the recycling symbol, reduce, reuse, recycle. And what happened, there was the Container Corporation out in Chicago. They were jealous of Nike. Now, this is not a true story. I'm making this up as I go along. Anyway, it sounds good, doesn't it? But anyway, Container Corporation, they wanted something like Nike had, the swoosh, and they wanted something that would be able to people to readily identify that this is something that you can recycle. So they had a contest. They offered $5,000, and this gentleman won, Gary Anderson. He was a student in the University of Southern California in 1974, which so happened, I think it coincides with Earth Day. I think that happened in that year too. I could be wrong, but anyway, well, it wasn't 5,000, it was 2,500. They reduced it as I was talking. So anyway, here's what happens when you're talking to the students. They look at the cartoon, the characters that are talking, and bam, all of a sudden their little brains begin to click and clamor, and they learn by visual learning. Look at this thing going, that is the recycling, reduce, reuse, recycle. And then the dialogue box, the bubbles, I would read to them aloud about what's happening. And I tell them the reason why he's done this is because the Mobius Orb, which is a never-ending circle, which is what, if you look at Facebook, Meta is their new brand. And it looks like to me, they took the Mobius Orb, which is like a figure 8 turned on its side. And so they're able to learn firsthand by visually seeing this activity and actually hands-on that we do with the commercial, and then working together, talking, and we're doing that right now. We're learning as we talk. I've talked to almost everyone on this call, and we'll be talking to more people in the future about just what we're trying to do with the Academy, the Ohio Recycling Coalition, and the National Recycling Coalition. For those of you that want to become part of the National Recycling Coalition, let me know. They're looking for a few good men and women because they have all kinds of things going on. They have conferences, workshops, seminars. They have a zero waste conference coming up in December. If you want, well, Gary's going to talk about it, so I won't steal his thunder. But it's easy to become a member. If you become a member of the Ohio Recycling Coalition, you get 3 for 1. Yes, 3 for 1, not 2. Not 1, but 3 for 1. And when you become a member, no charge, no fee, no file. And the reason why is because people are having a hard enough time with this COVID. I know Louise was talking about getting a test, and we don't want anyone to be excluded. We want to include any and everyone that wants to be part of this new movement to save our planet, including the climate change and all the toxins that are being spewed into the air and water that we breathe and drink today and walk on. So once you join the Ohio Recycling Coalition, which many of you are members, I know Tia is a member, of course, Alicia and Louise, they're right there, a part of our leadership team. Steve Grossman, who was going to be on the call, he'll be on there tomorrow, but he had to leave for another meeting. But you're all members. Now, here's all you got to do is say, I want to be involved with the National Recycling Coalition. Go to their website and you'll see the committees and councils. Along with Willie and Abrilla and Amoja, we're part of the JEDI with the National Recycling Coalition, which is basically we're dealing with trying to bring more minorities into the fold. So that's what the JEDI is trying to do. So if you want to be involved, just let me know, or Abrilla or Amoja, and we can get you on the team doing the right thing. Okay, and this is sort of a little description of the Mobius Orb, and you'll see this is Gary. I don't know who, this is probably his professor, or the person that gave him $2,500. But as you see, with the Mobius loop was discovered in 1858 by August Ferdinand Mobius. What a coincidence. Anyway, this is a little bit of history, and we talked to the students about this. This just didn't happen yesterday or day before. This type of thing, environmentalism, has been happening for centuries, going all the way back to our indigenous tribes in the United States and across the country and the world. Okay, we talk about this, the Throwaway Society, and that you'd have seen that if that thing would have worked. But anyway, we are a throwaway society, and it's getting worse. Sometimes it's getting better, but it goes up and down. And so we talk about the relationship of protecting our natural resources and respecting each other, and it happens. I have another presentation that I won't share with you. I can't get it up. But what it is, it's something that I was on a panel. I don't know why they put me up there. I was on a panel with Richard Liu, who penned and authored the book Last Child in the Woods. It's a good read. You all should read it. I've read it 2 or 3 times. And he was on my left, and on my right was Miss Sullivan. She was an astronaut. She was, at the time, she was Catherine Sullivan. She was over the COSI. And they talked about things that, as far as protecting our natural resources. And she had a view, and that's the PowerPoint that I have. I don't know if she gave it to me, but some astronaut made this happen, and I happened to be a recipient. I think she gave it to me or sent me the link or something, but it's out there. It's free to the public. It's really cool. It basically, you're in one of these satellites or one of these capsules, like the shuttle, and it takes you on a trip, a journey around the world, and you follow the sun, and you see the sun going west, and it's really impressive. And this is what I use as a icebreaker with the students. It's something that happens, and then you say, I'm handing it over to you. It's up to you, Jim, Frank, Nancy, Janie. This is gonna be your charge in the future. We want you to help us help the next generation, because it is you. And they would all raise their hand. I help Mr. Owens. I help. Okay, I got you. I got your name and number. Or not your number, but I got your name at least. I'll talk to your parents. We'll see if we can get you more involved in what we're trying to do with Earth Team Green, which meant the commercials. And then this is something that, here's what happens to a neighborhood. You have gangs, not just here in Columbus, but there's gangs everywhere. And they're coming from other countries. They form gangs. And it's an epidemic, and it's getting worse because of COVID. There's so many people out of work. Folks turn to gangs, young men and women. And I was talking to one of my printers, and she said something like this: we need to put neighbor back in the hood. And I said, I like that. I'm going to put that in my comic book. And she said, what comic book? I said, I don't have the script yet, but I'm going to write it when I get home. But anyway, we have to, this goes right back to what Richard Liu, the broken windows concept. Anyway, here's what happens. When you let a building or house or whatever go deserted, unkept, and next thing you know, you board it up. And I seen it firsthand. Years ago, I worked with the Columbus Metropolitan Housing Authority. I traveled all over the city helping people find safe, clean housing. And the Columbus Public Housing Authority is 225,000 residents, and each and every one of them that were going into public housing with the CMHA, they had to go through our company console. So I seen things, and even today, my wife Audrey was a tutor for Ohio elementary school, and she came home most days crying. And the reason why was because these kids were living in these neighborhoods where gangs had taken over the whole community, not the whole blocks, but all it took was 1 or 2 houses, terrorizing the families that lived in that particular area. And these kids would come to her, wintertime, no coat. One incident, she talked about this one little girl in the 1st or 2nd grade who hadn't seen her mom in days. And she had to get up every morning and fix her little kindergarten sister breakfast, which was cold cereal, and dress her and take her to work. To school, sorry. But anyway, what we try to do with Earth Team Green is instill a sense of pride and respect in all the kids and the teachers. We had to put neighbor back in the hood. And we do that by attacking, not something that, hit and run. We're talking about, we're going to go in there and we're going to sweep. Emoji knows what that is. And so it's Willie, we're going to do a sweep. We're going to sweep and get these hoodlums out of our neighborhood. We're going to put neighbor back in the neighborhood. So we talk about how that's going to happen and the signs of the graffiti. And here it is, this right up here, it says, take neighbor out of the neighborhood. And this is one of the notorious Litter. He's a shapeshifter, and he's the right hand of the Billy, who is over the Litter. And here are the 3G. I talk about that, and they're titled the Global Graffiti Gang, excuse me, but they actually perform all these wicked deeds. They're the ones that encourage apathy toward one another and the environment. And this is what Tony came up with. He found this somewhere in his neighborhood, and it's graffiti. Now, graffiti also is used by gangs as a means of communications. I work with the Columbus Police Department, and every now and then you'll see a new sign or scribbling on a billboard or a wall. And they told me if it's fresh and new, it means that someone's trying to I don't know what they call it, but it's like an initiation. You had to go out and hurt or kill somebody, and that's in Columbus. And a lot of that's been taken care of. The Short North posse was eradicated from the Short North. Now you can go up North High Street. It's beautiful. They have shops. They have all kinds of things going on, new buildings. So that's what we all have to do. We got to see that boarded up window and hear these folks doing the graffiti. So this is what we teach the children and the teachers that sit in, because you cannot go into any classroom without a teacher or some administrator being there in the room with you. And then this talks about the gangs and graffiti. I won't go into this but I just need to make you aware. One of the things that happened when I was, and Louise talked about this, Plant Pride Not Litter, which was a program that our staff, we had a stellar staff back then. It was cool because when can you go to work and you're sitting down and you're talking to the coach of Ohio State's daughter, Mickey Bruce. Earl Bruce was the coach at that time for Ohio State. Matter of fact, she got us into some of the activities at Ohio State. We had a contest at the the Expo fairgrounds, and we had the Ohio State football team, Earl Bruce, and my cousin who played on the Ohio State football team there. But it was fun. It was a lot of fun. But I just want to let you know that when you see graffiti, you see trouble. And when you're going in there trying to get people to participate in recycling, waste management, sometimes you can just save your breath, because in some cases they will not do anything, because the gangs, they want disorder. They do not want order. And so they keep out good and they encourage bad. So you have to know that when you're out there in the community. And one of the things that we did, at least I did, I had no problem walking into any neighborhood. I'm a black belt in martial arts, Taekwondo, and I have friends that are the Columbus Police Department. So I would go in and talk to the residents about getting involved in recycling. But first, we helped them clean up the neighborhoods with a contest called Wake Up, Clean Up, Spruce Up, Pride in Public Housing. It was a winner, a national winner. We won with the Department of Interior 3 times, Take Pride in America awards. We had a big old huge banquet for all the winners of all the public. And as a matter of fact, I said it was a challenge, but I knew what it was like to be a loser. But I knew what it's like it's even better to be a winner. So even though I called it a contest, every public housing authority in Ohio came in first place. And it worked. It was beautiful. They changed. They certainly changed. The people out there changed, not only to pick up litter and beautify, but we were able to go back in later on and say, hey, we got a new contest, got a new thing going on, recycle with Ohio Zoos. I said, you guys need to bring in your recyclables to the zoo. And what we did, we was able to educate any and everyone that participated, not only in Wake Up, Clean Up, Spruce Up, Pride in Public Housing, but in the Recycle with Ohio Zoos. And then later on, I worked with Nike. I flew out to Nike, and because they said I couldn't do it, I said, I can beat Oprah. because she had these bragging rights. She collected more athletic shoes than anybody in the world over a month. I said, I can do it in a weekend. And I wrote a proposal, and next thing I knew, Nike called me. I flew out with my chief, Mike Canfield, and we spent 2 or 3 days out there. Nike is like going to Disneyland. It's a beautiful campus. Anyway, they were convinced, we convinced them to have recycle your shoes with Ohio Zoos. And if you're ever in Toledo, Ohio, and you like the Mud Hens, you like baseball, Fifth Third Field, all those shoes that we collected, they turned them into Nike grind, and they made a playground surface right behind center field. There's a playground, and the surface is made from those shoes. And we beat Oprah, by the way. And anyway, I'm gonna get off of this graffiti stuff. And this really hit home. I was in Elgin, Illinois, and I made a presentation there to the schools. And I had to impress. I didn't have that much time, maybe 2 or 3 hours. I had to cover a lot of topics, and I wanted them to understand, because they wanted to do, and they did. They cleaned up neighborhoods, their public housing. The director of the public housing there was a really cool dude, and he took really quickly to what we were trying to do. And I said, we know there's 7 sources of litter. Well, how do you remember that? And I said, I got the answer. And here it is, the Litter 7 source soldiers. Now, this may sound kiddish, but it works. When you identify these 7 source soldiers, you will see firsthand why litter is a problem. These are some mean mamma jammas, and they don't take any prisoners. So they go into the neighborhood, they shift into humans, and they tear up stuff. And here are the primary sources of litter. I'm not going to read through this. You can check it out anytime, because you're going to get this presentation. I can send it to you. Anyway, the Litter, shape-shifting aliens from the planet Erewhon, which is nowhere, it's spelled backwards. And Louise and everyone and Alicia can attest to this. It seems like you clean up the litter. I know ODOT and the Ohio Department of Natural Resources, they just launched a program earlier in the year. Is a litter prevention program. ODOT spends over $4 million cleaning up ODOT's highways, and it happens. You can clean up all that miles and miles of highway. The next morning, there's litter everywhere because people don't care. Those are the ones we need to shake them up and say, hey, listen, we're not somebody else. Somebody else isn't going to clean this up. You are. And they need to understand that there is no such thing as somebody else. You're the responsible for doing that. You need to be the one to clean it up. So there needs to be more enforcement, litter laws, but it takes a lower priority because all the things that are happening now, and they've been happening with crime across, not only here in Columbus, but across the country. We talk about energy, and this is what gets them, because we talk about this blast of negative energy and how we can talk about and move into discussing ways to reduce our carbon footprint and things of that nature. So it works. They understand negative energy and they understand positive energy. That's what we're trying to strive for. And I just talk about this, saving our resources. You'll see right here, a new type of recycling was taking place at this landfill, and all my eco heroes were transported there. They didn't know how they got there. I took this out of an episode from the Twilight Zone when all these characters couldn't figure out how they got into this big room. It was it was a can pretty much. And they were actually in a can, a lady outside of the can. They were collecting old broken toys, and they were discarded toys. And they just didn't know how they got there. But anyway, these kids find themselves at a landfill, and excuse me, they got hit by this negative energy. They think they're dying, but underneath all this waste and trash and whatever, which includes cans, bottles, glass, paper, electronics, they are laying on the ground, and they think they're dying, but all of a sudden a new type of recycling takes place. And These are some of the materials that are in the landfill. And boom, these individuals begin absorbing the energy from those things that we throw away, which is the paper. And we have someone representing the paper industry, I believe, on the call, on the Zoom link. But we talk about how paper is made, and a lot of it is from we recycle paper, but trees, they are a renewable resource. So we talk about that. There's an activity I did with fast plants with some grass seeds. But anyway, it gets them involved in why we need to take care of the environment. And e-waste, this is actually, this person here is my son, Ryan the Boat Owens. And we talk about e-waste, and e-waste is anything you can plug in. That's the truth. And what happens in many of the appliances, and like chargers and whatever, they break down, and they have to be collected. And here's one of the reasons. These are old cell phones. Now this picture was taken a few years ago, and we have a person on call here that has a e-waste collection and demanufacturing facility right there in Steubenville. So you can raise your hand, and you can. Is it Gene? I can't remember now. I need to read more comic books. Anyway, I can't find my cell phone. We did that because there is an abundance of discarded cell phones. People, you think about how your phone, it becomes outdated in a matter of months with Apple and all these other new phones that are coming out, iPhone 6, 5, 10, whatever. And so they're discarded. Some people just throw them away. Some people recycle them. But anyway, this is just to show you what we're up against. And now I've been talking with Dr. Williams on starting a program to recycle cannabis, medical cannabis. It comes in a variety of packaging, paper, not paper, but glass and plastic. And they're estimating millions of containers are being held by people that use the medical marijuana, or people just toss them in the trash. And we got to find a way to collect those items so they can be recycled, because they actually would become feedstock. Old computer keyboards, anyone in the e-waste recycling business understands that. And I think if you ever go to any business that collects and demanufactures computers and other electronic devices, mostly computers, you'll be astounded of what you find when you demanufacture a computer, including the hard drive. They have precious metals within there. Even your mouse, it has a metal ball, at least some of the older models do, and all that's being collected. And the computers, the hard drive back then, I have an all-in-one HP that I'm working on right now. But if you're ever at the Columbus Fairgrounds and you go to the Department of Natural Resources Park, there is a shelter building, and the roof is made out of old discarded computers, at least their casings. I'm not going to go into this because this is so old. It's probably older than most of you, but it talks about the world's e-waste. What we focus on now is plastic. Plastic is one of the worst enemies of the marine life all over the world. There's actually 5 Gaias in our oceans. There's 5 ocean Gaias. And in those ocean Gaias, they call them garbage Gaias. The largest one is the Pacific garbage Gaia. It's coming, if it's not already landed, in the California, our western coastline. This Gaia, when I looked at it and talked about it, when I was talking to the 5th graders at Hannah Ashton, it was as large as the state of Texas. It's tripled in size. It's huge. And what happens, now think about this, tomorrow morning when you get up, for those that take a shower rather than a bath and use that body wash, is, it contains plastic. Now, here's one thing, you're washing with plastic. Plastic is made out of petroleum, believe it or not. And I know that because I used to work for Standard Oil in Lima, Ohio, and I know all about that industry. I was a filter building operator for 6 months, and then they fired me because I was in an accident. and I wasn't able to walk because I got injured in a car accident. And you couldn't miss any days. But the point of it is that body wash has these little fine particles of plastic. They're used when you're rubbing and dubbing and all that, you're scrubbing with plastic. That plastic goes into your drainage. It ultimately ends up in the water resources. You can't get rid of it. It ends up finally in a river which flows south down into the oceans, and it ends up in a garbage sky one way or the other. Now, I just put this in here that I wanted to integrate science, which basically electronics is about that. And I had to do this because it's an art integrated approach to education. And I'm not going to go into this, but electricity, I tell you what, it's fast. And I know firsthand because I was remodeling my family room way back in the day, and I didn't shut off the electricity. I tell you, this stuff is fast. I was putting up some barnyard paneling, and I didn't know what I was doing. So I cut a hole where I could put the cover the paneling over this outlet. And I said, wait a minute, I can't put a plate because this thing, so I'm going to pull this outlet out. And I hit a live wire, electricity. I found out that electricity flows at 186,000 miles per second. In my case, it was like a microsecond. It knocked me all the way across the room. I don't mess with electricity anymore. But this is something that we talk with the kids because now they relate the volt with the speed of electricity. And that's a good lesson. And the same thing with paper. We talk about how it's made. Is a renewable or a non-renewable resource. We direct them to the American Force and Paper. I've got buddies over there, so they would give us videos and so forth to share with the students. Steel, this guy here, the art. My first contributor to my comic books was Bill Heenan. Bill was the president of the Steel Recycling Institute out of Pittsburgh. And I told him I was working on my comic books. And I said, we're looking for people to donate. Bill, and I'm not going to tell you how much he gave me, but he drove out here to Columbus. We met at Brios at Easton, and we talked about my comic books. He said, I like it. I said, well, Bill, I'll tell you what, man, I'm going to turn you into a super eco hero. He said, yeah, come on, man. I said, yeah, no, you're going to be the art. Now, here's a cool thing. Bill worked in a steel mill. And where he worked at, they made steel the old way, which is you use all raw material, and that is through a basic oxygen furnace. And I've been there, I've seen them. I've seen both of these. And the other one is electrical arc furnace. I've seen that too. It's like the electrical arc furnace is like watching Star Wars. When you put all that, they have a recipe. They put so much raw material in, and then they put a lot of the scrap steel, and they put in this big, huge, look like a big crock pot, only it's huge. A crane lifts it up and it drops it into this big hole or whatever opening, and they seal it. And then they put, I don't know how many thousands volts of electricity, and that thing sparks and it makes all kind of huge, it's like a welding torch. It's something to see. Timken is where I saw that at. And then we talk about this, our activities in the school classrooms. And we talk about, they make posters. It's really hands-on. And Louise, of course, has experienced this with her students. And here's Cody. Cody is, her power stem from the renewable energy resources. And I chose Cody, Keep America Beautiful, had the ironized Cody, the crying Indian, and I couldn't use Cody, C-O-D-Y. This is Cody, K-O-D-Y. She comes back from the future, and she lives in Dayton, Ohio, or her tribe did way back then. And I got really interested in what they do in Dayton. I go to a powwow every year at the, I can't think of the name of that place, but in a Sunset or something like Sunwatch. I'm sorry, Sunwatch. If you want to learn more about other cultures, especially our Native Americans, go to a powwow and talk with those folks. My wife talked with one of the individuals there that had walked all the way from Wounded Knee. He was protesting, or they were protesting the oil, the pipeline that was being built on their reservation. So it's something that you need to think about when you're looking at being inclusive, and you're looking at that acronym JEDI. We need to look at our Native Americans and bring them into the fold in any way you can. So I made Cody the leader, the guardian of Earth Team Green, and she's a sort of a guide like Sacagawea was with the Lewis and Clark expedition. And by the way, Lewis and Clark struggled the whole way. Sacagawea during that journey walked on foot, pregnant, all the way from wherever they started from, all the way over to somewhere Seaside, Oregon. So it's something to just talk about, think about. Anyway, this is what we talk about here. The lesson about let's get dramatic. It's really cool. And I don't have the commercials that these kids did, but I would fall out, and they were so creative. It was just unbelievable. And we did it with second graders too. These second graders caught on so fast, it was unbelievable. They would take that mic, you couldn't get it away from them. And they would sit there and sing, dance, laugh, just had a good time. It's something that we need to do with our children because they see so much negativity today on the news, even in this rap and crap, all that stuff. It's all bad. They need to begin thinking positive. And I just talk a little bit about climate change, but our new eco hero that's going to fulfill that is the Sky Princess. There's some steel facts, and then we talk about how this is made. Aluminum, if you want to see something, if you ever go to Jamaica, it may not be there anymore, but in their production of aluminum, they had these holding ponds. They're like lakes. They were blood red. And it was the byproducts of the processing of and making aluminum. I think it's alumina that they mine there, and totally disrupts the environment. That area where they dump that water, that polluted water, it will never, ever, ever come back. Then we talk about the Eco Hero factoids and what we have here. And that is it. Any questions?
Hey, Arley, I had a question. This is Andrea.
Yeah, Andrea.
Hey, how do you get this program into the schools? Can you email all of that information? Because the kids, I'm sure, would love to see the presentation. So just want to know the process to get that into school districts.
Well, there really isn't a process. You have to ask Tia. She and I are going to team up with some other folks to get into the schools. And I told her I would help because, you know, I have all my comic books and that lesson plan. And I've taught myself, and and she's worked with them too, the Columbus Independent Film Group. These are some dynamic individuals. They have equipment that I would die for: cameras, lighting equipment, sound. And they do this all out of the goodness of their heart, not for us, not for me and Tia, because I think she's used them to do a commercial. But what we're trying to do this coming year is to start a pilot program. She's going to bring in her team. I'm going to bring in my team because I have two individuals that I work with all the time, Linda Goodwin and Dan Wade. Dan Wade is my videographer. Linda is, she's super talented. She actually, her and Dan used to be the voice of the Ohio Outdoor Notebook. Linda, all her experience, some of it she got from her father. He was the vice president of advertisement for Nationwide Insurance. So she knows all the ins and outs. She's also an actress. So what we would do, Andre, you just need to contact me or Tia, and then we'll set up a time, and we can go into the schools and we can get it back. I mean, it's easy for me because I've done it before. Tia is a fast learner. I've seen that. She's a go-getter, and she wants to get involved with the school. She has programs that I think we can tie together, and everyone would come out a winner. So just give us a call, or you can take us to lunch. I mean, that'd be even better. Okay.
Oh, I'm absolutely in agreement with that. How
Okay.
about you pick the place and we'll arrange the time. Thank you so much.
Everybody heard that, right? Okay. Any other questions?
Do I need to add Dutch? No, I'm just joking.
Oh, yeah, here's what I forgot to mention. I have all my comic books. They're not ebooks, but they're flip books. So if you see something, one of the comic books that I have, you can go to my website, earthteamgreen.org. And if you want one of the or a couple of the comic books, I'll send you a flip book. It's not the actual hard copy. I have them for sale, but if you want to see firsthand the actual content of the comic books, they're really good. As a matter of fact, Marshall Spalding, when I did that comic book for the city of Reynoldsburg, the police department. I met him out here the other day. He's moved to New Albany. His son is the mayor of New Albany. And I said, how'd you like that comic book, Marsh? He said, man, that you're spot on. He said, I shared that with my, cause I gave him like 10 copies and he has 11, maybe 12 copies. He said, Arley, your comic books are a treasure. I said, what do you mean by that? He said, the information that you share and the artwork, he said, my kids love them. And then I sent one of my colleagues 2 sets, Mick Berry, and he called me up after he got them. He said, I took him to my grandson's birthday. He loves them. And so you have an instant in when you use the comic books in the classroom, but it makes a difference. Not just my comic books, but when you bring in any kind of additional material that's entertaining and informative, you will get the attention not only of the children, but of the administrators and the teachers. And I've done that in all the schools I've worked with. So we'd have to just sit down and work out a schedule. And then I don't know if Columbus, I think we have to go through the same process as far as being, they do a background check, which is no problem. I've already passed that, but I can do all that, Andre, just let me know. Okay.